My name is Ben Silverstein. I am product manager for Endian, and we're happy to have everyone today join us for our webinar on the Endian Connect Platform. Hopefully everyone can see my screen here and can hear me well. If you can't, please let me know using the chat feature. I've shared the presentation with everyone as a handout, so you should have that available to download, keep for yourself, or use for your own purposes to review the webinar afterwards. So it has all the slides that we'll be covering today. So let's get started. So the Endian Connect platform is a new solution set that Endian is launching. As you can see here, one of the primary targets that is for industrial, so secure digital connectivity for industrial IoT. And we're going to kind of show you why this Connect platform solution set is ideal for industrial IoT market. So a little about Endian for those that are not familiar with us. We've been around since 2003. Top-notch Linux and security gurus that work at Endian. We have 3 countries that have offices opened in. And of course, we're best known for our UTM platform, all-in-one network security appliance that's been around since the very beginning. And we've actually been creating products and solutions within the industrial IoT space since 2011. And the Connect platform is really kind of a culmination of all of that effort that's come together to create this solution set with all these different products that come together and work together in a very unique and innovative way. So the vision of Endian is to provide a secure platform that connects distributed people and things, simplifying the digitalization of businesses. And our kind of new mantra that we've launched as part of that vision is kind of a 3-pillared mantra with connect, secure, and simplify. So those are kind of the 3 pillars of everything we do at Endian, and obviously the 3 pillars of all of our products and solutions that we sell. So the Connect platform, the concept behind it, our goal really was to create, and the result really has been, we've created the only open end-to-end platform to provide secure remote connectivity between people, things, processes like infrastructure, so monitoring, management, and networks. And we're going to show you kind of what that looks like here as we dive into the actual Connect platform itself. So here you can see a diagram kind of illustrating some common uses within the architecture of the system itself. So on the left-hand side, you have users. So these are people. It could be field support staff. It could be IT staff. It can be automation people. It could be third-party vendors, outside companies that need access to certain pieces of equipment or certain data that's available within your company. And then you can see that kind of the hub of the entire architecture is what we call the Connect Switchboard, the Endian Connect Switchboard. It's the hub that connects everything together. So your users are on the left, your devices and field equipment is on the right, and then connecting tying all this stuff together is the central component called the switchboard. And we're going to talk about all of these things in more detail as we go through. But you can see some of the core concepts here that we have, where we have hardware devices that we sell that allow you to connect your field equipment to the switchboard. We have software that allows you to directly connect your OEM machinery, as an example, to the switchboard. And then we have software that allows you to connect your cloud resources as well. So that's a big point that we're going to talk about a little bit more as we go through the presentation. So the actual components that Endian has created you can now utilize as part of the Connect platform are shown on this slide here. And so we've broken it down into the 3 areas that we just talked about. So on the left, starting from the left, we have people and process. So these are your users, or your groups. In the middle, we have the central management piece, which is the Endian Connect Switchboard. And then on the right-hand side, you have your remote devices, your remote networks that you need to get connected so that users can then access those resources through the switchboard. And so we're going to dive into each of these components a little deeper and talk about what they do, how they do it, and some of the highlights of them, of each one. So the Connect Switchboard, like we talked about, is the central component, the central management piece. This is where all of the magic, if you want to call it that, takes place. All of your security settings, your permission management, all of your remote deployment stuff takes place here. So some of the things that you can do with the switchboard, the granular control between users, devices, networks, what we call endpoints, which are the actual field devices out in the field, remote equipment, and then applications as well. So there is a concept of applications that we're going to talk about as well, where you can define applications and be able to access applications using our software. Obviously, being able to enforce least privilege security with role-based access is a fundamental part of any kind of central remote access solution. The ability to also layer on UTM functionality in terms of a central component, right? So for those deployments where users might be looking to bring all of the remote network traffic back to a central place in order to do some kind of network security inspection on that traffic, the switchboard does also have UTM functionality as well. So if you were looking to deploy a centralized IPS, a centralized web filtering, antivirus inspection technology, the switchboard supports that, adding that functionality as well to your remote networks. Probably one of the biggest things with the switchboard is just the fact that it's highly scalable. We have users with thousands of devices, or customers with thousands of devices and users defined on their switchboard system. And we believe that it could go to potentially hundreds of thousands or millions of devices connected to a global network of switchboards deployed. Another big benefit with the switchboard is the ability to tie into your existing authentication sources. So if you're an Active Directory or an LDAP infrastructure already in place, you can have the switchboard tie into that and not have to recreate usernames and passwords for especially for large deployments or large user bases. That's a big value add. And then one of the biggest selling points is how the switchboard is able to be sold. So we offer it as a cloud-based option, which means that the switchboard is hosted by Endian in our cloud infrastructure, and all you have to do is start connecting users and devices to it. So this kind of is ideal for SMB, but it also works in other environments as well, where you don't want to get bogged down with deploying the central component in your own infrastructure, or maybe you don't have the resources to manage that. Endian offers the switchboard to be available in a cloud option, so you just pay for what you need and you're off and running within a matter of minutes. And alternatively, for those customers that say, I don't want a cloud option, or I can't run my remote access solution in the cloud, we offer an on-premise solution as well. So you can have it whichever way you want it. And with the on-premise version, we offer 3 form factors to run the switchboard in your own environment. So hardware means you purchase the hardware, and it comes with the UTM software along with the switchboard component. So it's plug and play. You just connect the hardware to your infrastructure and configure everything, and you're up and running. Alternatively, we also offer the switchboard module to be available in a software or a virtual appliance. So pretty much any way you would want to consume or create the switchboard server component, you can do that through either of these options, hardware, software, or virtual appliance. Those are all available. So we'll talk a little bit about the user component of the Connect platform. So there's 2 primary software applications that you can use. The first is what we call Connect App. So this is our full VPN client software. It's you download it and install the application. It supports Windows and Mac OS X platforms, and it gives you basically the same look and feel. The software that we provide whether it's Connect App or Connect Web, has the same user interface. It's just a slightly different variation in terms of one is a complete app installation and the other is run through a web browser. So the primary difference between Connect App and Connect Web is that the Connect App, because it's a full software client that you install, is actually a VPN client. So it also provides full network access capabilities. In other words, like a traditional VPN client would. And so that's your primary reason why you would typically choose to utilize the Connect App for a user or for a given group of users versus having them use the Connect Web client. So we'll take a look at Connect Web so you can kind of see the differences here. So Connect Web, like it sounds, is just a web-based client, so it runs inside the browser. There is no application to install. It provides the same user interface as Connect App in terms of you can see all of your gateways and endpoint devices, and it does have some support for applications that are built into the browser as well. So you can see those down at the bottom of the slide here. So RDP, so remote desktop, VNC, which is remote desktop for Linux type devices, HTTP, HTTPS, SSH, and Telnet are all applications that you can utilize within the Connect Web client. And what that means is you can actually access those applications for remote resources without having to install any client software for them. So as an example, if you want to remote desktop to a remote user's computer using Connect Web, you can do that without having to install an RDP client on the user's computer. And so it truly is like a clientless solution for these types of applications. And we'll do a live demonstration of all of this at the end of the webinar here, so that you can actually kind of see this in action. The only real requirement is that the browser you utilize come with HTML5 technology, which pretty much all modern browsers do. The other advantage of Connect Web is because it's a web-based client and because it's utilizing HTML5 only, is that it's supported within mobile applications. So any iOS, Android, or other mobile operating system that has an HTML5 browser can utilize Connect Web to actually be able to log in and see their remote resources and be able to access these supported applications within them. So it's a very slick piece of technology. So Connect Web is one of the main highlights of the Connect platform that we're really focusing on, that we think is a big value add to businesses out there looking for a remote access solution. So we'll talk a little bit about the other side of the switchboard, right, which is the remote devices, remote networks. Endian is really unique with our remote access solution in the fact that we support multiple ways to get remote devices, remote networks connected to the switchboard. So a lot of companies have the hardware option, but not a lot of companies offer these other options that we're going to talk about a little bit more. As you can see, we have hardware, which is currently our 4i Edge line. We have what we call the Endian Agent, which is a lightweight software client that we'll talk a little bit about. And then we have a custom option, so an SDK where users, for various reasons, who need to build their own client into their own equipment, or maybe utilize the client within an OEM type option, we actually have an SDK that you can utilize to roll your own client software into your own infrastructure or your own environment. And so really there's basically no scenario where Endian doesn't support a method to allow you to get devices and or networks connected into the switchboard. So let's look a little deeper at each of these options. So hardware, currently our 4i Edge product line is already supported. So we have 3 models within the 4i Edge. These are all our industrial form factors. We have the 4i Edge 515, the 313, and the 112. We will be expanding this hardware support to include the UTM product line, as well as other product lines potentially in the future. The 4i line offers the core components of our network security stack, so firewall, VPN, IPS, even 3G, 4G integrated modem support for some of these models. these, because they're industrial form factors, they do have things like extended temperature options available on the 515. They're all DIN rail mountable, and they have expanded industrial input-output ports as well. The great thing about the hardware is you can use the hardware to connect single or one or two devices, endpoint devices to the switchboard, or you can connect an entire remote network to the switchboard. And it doesn't really, from the standpoint of the hardware, it doesn't really matter. So that's kind of the real value add that you get with utilizing the hardware option to connect remote networks to the switchboard. So you can see kind of a very simple use case where we have some hardware appliances being used to connect various endpoint equipment into the switchboard, so that users can then, and infrastructure can then access it or monitor it, etc. So the software agent that we talked about is an alternative to the hardware. So the agent is a lightweight piece of software that can be installed, as of today, can be installed on a Windows device, and allows you to basically kind of bypass having to connect a piece of hardware. So the agent is a software component that directly connects an endpoint device to the switchboard. And so this is great when you may not need to connect multiple devices everywhere. Maybe you have a single device that you manage, at thousands of different locations, and rather than try and deploy a piece of hardware that you then have to turn around and manage and all of that stuff, you can just say, I'd rather just load a piece of software on all my remote devices and just have them connect directly to the switchboard. So that's what the agent does, is give you a streamlined client software that you can load onto an endpoint device, and be able to have it connect directly into the switchboard and be able to be accessed by users. So as of today, the agent is available for Windows platform. We will be expanding that. The next agent platform we will support will be Linux, and further down the road we're going to be expanding the capabilities of the agent to offer some additional host level security features. For example, being able to have a firewall that's built into the agent so that you can manage centrally, so that you can set your own security levels for remote host security, things like that. And so the agent is a great alternative for scenarios where the hardware doesn't make sense or maybe isn't as cost effective. So here you can see kind of a use case for that, where we have, in this example, these remote devices. One is a Windows server and the other is a Linux server, and we've just decided that we'll use the agent here. So we'll just load the software onto those machines and get them connected directly to the switchboard. So the last option that we talked about is our SDK, which is a custom option. So this is perhaps most useful for those either OEM type opportunities where you're talking a large number of devices, or in a scenario where you're selling equipment that doesn't runs a proprietary operating system, for example. So it's not running a Windows or Linux based operating system. The SDK might be something that would make sense in that scenario as well. So you can kind of take our development kit and build your own Connect client, and be able to integrate that into your hardware equipment or whatever it is that you have out in the field. And that kind of gives you the ability to perhaps do other things that tie into your own development roadmap, or offer some advanced features that are unique to your solutions as well. So really kind of the three options there with the hardware, the agent, and the SDK give you kind of a complete toolkit to be able to provide solutions that allow people to get their remote devices, remote networks connected into the switchboard. So here's just an example of that, where we have some, let's say, industrial equipment that's probably running some very unique or very proprietary operating system, or something that's not easily able to be utilizing the agent. So in this case, we utilize the SDK to build our VPN client into the software directly. That allows it to then get connected to the switchboard. So that's kind of all of the components of the Connect platform. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the real feature highlights. And one of the biggest, probably the biggest, is the Plug and Connect feature. So Plug and Connect is a feature that we created to allow basically rapid deployment of large numbers of devices over the internet. So basically it's centralized deployment. So you when you have a hardware appliance, for example, or an agent that you want to install, instead of having to run through the actual configuration on the remote device or the remote software, you can actually use Plug and Connect. And basically what it does is allow the device to kind of go out over the internet, talk to our infrastructure to be able to find its located switchboard and get connected to the switchboard, all without any remote remote configuration required on the device. So whether it's a hardware device or the agent or something you built with an SDK, Plug and Connect works across all three: hardware, agent, and SDK. You can basically remote deploy all of your devices, agents, and other things out there without having to do anything in terms of deploying field staff or deploying IT people out to the field to configure the remote device. So we'll take a look at what that looks like here, the process. Basically, in this case, let's say it's a hardware device out in the field. So the user basically connects the device to the internet. So let's say the existing network that's already out there. The user then goes to the switchboard and claims the device. So in other words, they say, okay, here's the serial number of the device in question. They enter a few basic parameters to tell the switchboard a little bit about the device, how they want it configured. And then once the device will automatically see that the changes have been created by the user on the switchboard, it will pull down its configuration and automatically connect. And at that point, the user and the device are connected to the switchboard, and the user can then access the endpoints and other resources that have been defined behind the device in question. So it's really streamlining that deployment process for, especially when you're talking about hundreds or thousands of devices. Plug and Connect is absolutely a massive feature for that type of thing. So another thing that we actually just released for the Connect platform is what we call the Live Map interface, or the dashboard. And so it like it sounds, it's basically an interactive map that shows you all of your devices, shows you where they are on a map, shows you their kind of status level, if they're online, offline. You can actually drill down and see if someone is connected to a device. You can actually click devices that are out in the field and connect to them directly through the map interface. And then with our dashboard, you actually get some high-level statistical information about number of users online, number of devices out there in the field that are, how many of those are online, licensing information, things like that. So we'll take a look at this as well. All of this stuff we're going to kind of show you as we do the live demonstration. But the Live Map dashboard feature is a really innovative feature, I think, in terms of kind of layering on a visual interface to your remote access solution, and the ability to kind of not just view but also interact and see real-time information about your remote devices and users out in the field using this map interface. Some of the other highlights, a lot of these we've already actually kind of mentioned, but some of these ones at the top, the open platform concept. So we talked about the hardware, the agent, and the SDK, but in addition to that, really our platform is an open platform. We don't necessarily exclude third-party vendors, and so depending on compatibility options, we do support connectivity with other third-party hardware platforms, for example. And so that's a very unique unique component of the Connect platform, the fact that we didn't just necessarily build it for to be an internal thing, to be only Endian. We've actually had it built from the ground up to be open, to be an open platform. I think this next one is a huge one. It's built for OEM, so that's a big thing. The fact that the entire platform is actually built to be very easily within a few steps. You can add your own logo and company name and information, and you can white label the entire thing. So when the user logs into the Connect app, when the user logs into Connect Web, all they see is your logo, your company name, information. And so I think that's very unique within the industry, the fact that we have made it so easy and we built the platform to be within a few minutes be able to white label the entire solution set. The cloud integration, so the fact that we have the agent means that basically anything that is running Windows or Linux, which can run anywhere, right? So the cloud is a big part of that. The fact that a lot of IoT and just IT companies in general are starting to move resources to the cloud, whether it's Amazon or Azure or whatever. Maybe they have management and monitoring infrastructure that's being migrated or that already exists in the cloud, and they want to tie some of that into their remote access component. The fact that the Connect platform has this ability to easily tie that infrastructure into everything else is a big selling point. And of course, the last three we just talked about, so I'm not going to cover those again. So we want to kind of just quickly talk about some of the customers who helped to create the Connect platform and who are already using it. So you can see some names here, some pretty big company names here: Caterpillar, a company called Worf, also called Instrumentation Laboratory, and then Orange Business Service, the telecommunication company. All three of these customers are using the Connect platform today. And we're going to talk a little bit about how they're using it and why they're using it. So Caterpillar, obviously a huge company, creates heavy machinery, engines, things like that. So their issue was kind of how do we add, be able to kind of monitor our remote devices, whatever they may be, and be able to kind of increase support, increase visibility, be able to run remote diagnostics against our machinery out in the field, all kind of in an easy and secure way, right? So they have these, for example, large engines that they want to be able to utilize. So basically what they did was deploy an Endian device into every engine, and now they're able to, their support and other field staff are able to connect and run diagnostics and be able to troubleshoot remote machinery out in the field. So that was a big time saver. It makes them more efficient. It saves money, obviously. And so you'll see a lot of these same themes with the other companies. So Werfen, the medical device manufacturer, had the same thing. How do we support our medical devices out in the field? How do we troubleshoot them in real time? How do we get access to diagnostics on them instead of having to fly someone out to a hospital to do on-site troubleshooting? And that's exactly what they did. And the last thing, Orange Business Services, they actually deployed our product for their maritime solution. So it's running on ships. And again, they kind of wanted to be able to monitor the infrastructure on board the ships and be able to run diagnostics and be able to make changes to equipment out in the field. All right, so we'll do a quick demonstration here of the Connect Web platform, just so everyone can see. And then that will kind of wrap it up. So I'm just going to log into our demo switchboard here. This is Connect Web, like I said. Let me share this with you. Okay, so you can see kind of the first thing when we log in is kind of all of our gateways, all of our endpoint devices that are connected behind it are listed here, and you can see the status of those devices. So this is our traditional view, which we call the list view or the connection view. You can, for a given device, you can click on it and it will open up options to launch the supported applications that we talked about. So for example, if we wanted to open a remote desktop session to this Windows device, we can click there and a new tab will open up. and we'll get our remote desktop interface. Now again, keep in mind this is all running inside the browser, so I didn't have to launch an RDP client locally on my machine. It all runs inside the browser. And so I have this little control panel up at the top of my browser screen where I can pull up a keyboard, or copy paste things, or go full screen. In this case, I'm just going to close the tab here. And we can see that if I just close this pop-up, we can see that my user shows is connected to this Windows device. And at any point I can come in here and just kind of disconnect myself. So this is the connection view. And then over on the right hand side we have our dashboard showing us kind of how many users are on the system, how many are online. Same thing for gateways, and then total number of endpoints. These are Windows, Linux devices that we've defined. And we have another tab up here for the map view. So if I click on that, it will show us our map interface, which we talked about, the live map with the dashboard. So it's prompting us to enter location information. We'll say do that later. So you can see we get kind of an aggregate view in terms of a global view of our devices out in the field. And if we want to see more information, we can click on one to drill down a little closer. And again, we can just keep drilling down to see these different devices. We can click on a device to see the information about that device. We can see if somebody's connected. And again, just like with the list view, we can actually click this to launch that application so that we can then connect to it. So this is SSH as an example, coming up through the browser. I didn't need an SSH client to do this. So keep in mind, Connect Web, because it's HTML5, works on any browser. So mobile, desktop, laptop, basically any platform that can run a browser. So we'll close this connection here. We also have the option to be able to kind of filter what we want to see within the map view. So if we just want to pull out the devices which only show us devices which are online, we can kind of toggle that there so we can see, okay, these are the only two devices which are online. And again, you can just kind of drill down to see this information. So this is a really cool way to kind of see your remote access infrastructure in a different way and be able to interact with it. So we have other tabs here that show you kind of where you can go to create users and define groups of them. Same thing for devices, which is can be anything. It can be a hardware device, it could be an agent. All of those are considered devices. To launch the Plug and Connect interface, basically click that link and it starts the wizard to basically enter the unique activation code of your device. And after you're done with the wizard, once the device is online, it'll automatically connect itself to the switchboard. So that's the Plug and Connect feature that we talked about. Applications tab, where you can create applications and put them into groups. And you can see that there's all kinds of different features here. With each feature, you have different things you can do in terms of, like RDP, for example, you can customize advanced options. You can specify advanced parameters that go with RDP as well. So you can see there's a whole bunch of RDP options that are supported within the application concept. You can also create custom applications. So for the Connect app, for example, any application can be defined. So basically any application can be defined using a TCP or UDP port. And you can actually also control whether the application is available just for Connect app, which is the full client, or if you want to also support it within Connect Web, or to be able to run inside of Connect app. So there's some really advanced options there. So that's kind of a quick at a glance view of the switchboard, the Connect platform, and the Connect Web client specifically, but also looking at the live map feature and things like that. So at this point, that concludes the webinar. We have a lot of information on our website, Endian.com. We've launched quite a bit of information about the Connect platform. You'll find it. It's one of the first things you'll see when you hit our website. Are there any questions before we wrap things up here? I want to go ahead and thank everyone for their time for joining us today. So there was a question about will the switchboard be available I guess, in the software 25 license. So don't really want to get into too much detail about the licensing. We kind of encourage you to contact your local Endian sales rep to talk about that. But there is some minimum requirements in terms of being able to utilize the switchboard, and it has more to do with the way in which the switchboard is licensed in terms of the numbers there. Those have to correspond with whatever hardware, software, or virtual license you've purchased. But yeah, so for any kind of detailed information, if you want pricing, if you want to find out more about it, or if you want to maybe schedule something more directly with the salesperson, we encourage you to reach out to us or get in touch with your local sales rep, and they'll be better able to assist you with that. All right, so again, thank you everyone for joining. I don't see any other questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks for joining, and we hope to hear from everyone soon. Yeah, have a great rest of the week. Thanks, everyone.